Shalom Israel. It's been a minute, and for good reasons. But now we are back. I'm back. Hope everybody's Shabbat yesterday was a restful one. I wanted to get on with another message, and kind of having to do with the law, but more so with what our sacrifice actually is. Okay, so as you can see in the thumbnail, it's sacrifice, law, and principle. So what I want to touch on is ways in which the law is still relevant, but we keep it differently. We keep it in terms of a spiritual sense and not in terms of the letter of the law, right? And the point is to look at these the new covenant from a Hebraic perspective and not that of a Christian perspective that can be falsely colored. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about sacrifice. We know that according to the letter of the law, a part of that was the sacrificial system where we had to bring bullocks and goats and lambs and turtle doves to make a sacrifice for sins until YHWH, until YHWH's sacrifice. All praise to Yahweh. But I wanna ask the question: is the sacrifice over with? Well, we know there's a twofold answer to that. Number one, we still have a sacrifice because YHWH's sacrifice was good for 2,000 years ago, and it's good for today. So we can say that presently we have that sacrifice in Him. We can say also presently we still have a high priest. His priesthood is forever, right? After the order of Melchizedek. But I wanna get into why the sacrifice is still relevant, and in what way is it relevant? Am I going to say that we're still to sacrifice sheep, goat, bullocks, and turtle doves? No, because that was put away on the tree. That was put away with YHWH's sacrifice, and Scripture clearly lets us know that if we continue to do those things, then we reject YHWH's sacrifice for us. So what are we getting at here? Well, I want to start at Hebrews chapter 7. We're going to do a lot of New Testament stuff to kind of drive the point home. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 7, and we can start at verse 11. All right? Because that's the starting, explaining the change of the law. Not the abrogation of the law, but the change of the law, right? So verse 11 says, "Truly then, if perfection were through the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people were given the law, why was there still need for another priest to arise according to the order of Melchizedek, and not to be called according to the order of Aaron?" Stop. We see two priesthoods here. We see an Aaronic priesthood and we see a Melchizedek priesthood. Right? We see two different priesthoods, with the Melchizedek priesthood being the superior priesthood. The Aaronic priesthood, under the Aaronic priesthood, we sacrificed animals. The Melchizedek priesthood, YHWH's sacrifice, his blood is sufficient for back then and today and forevermore. Right? So we're looking at a contrast here. But if we read further, verse 12 says, "For the priesthood being changed," I want you to take note of that word changed. It didn't say it was abolished. We still have a priesthood. It's just not an Aaronic priesthood anymore. It's a priesthood after the order of Melchizedek now, right? So the priesthood being changed, of necessity, there also takes place a change of law. Notice the word change again. It was not an abrogation of law. It was a change, a mere change of law. Okay, we saw one area just now where the law was being changed, and that was in the area of the priesthood, right? For he of whom it is said, in verse 13, "For he of whom it is said belongs to another tribe, from which no one has attended at the altar." At that time, no one from the tribe of Judah served in a priesthood served as a priest. Okay, it was always somebody from the tribe of Levi. All right. For he of whom it is said belongs to another tribe from which no one attended at the altar. For it is perfectly clear that our Adon rose from Yehuda, a tribe which Moshe never spoke of according to, concerning the priesthood. And it's clear that if another priest arises in the likeness of Melchizedek, who has become not according to the law of fleshly command, that's the Aaronic priesthood, but according to the power of an endless life, right? For he witnesses, you are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. There is therefore a laying aside of the former command because of its weakness and its unprofitableness. Stop right there. So we're looking at the commands to observe the Levitical priesthood and seeing, or the Aaronic priesthood, same thing, and seeing that there was a weakness in that the blood of bulls and goats could not take away sins, right? But a superior, it says, okay, but a superior priesthood after the order of Melchizedek is enough to take away, more than enough to take away sins, right? So we're looking at, why am I pointing out this verse? I'm pointing out this passage to emphasize one thing, that we still have a priesthood. The concept of a priesthood never went anywhere. It's still here. It's just that it changed from Levitical to Melchizedek. The Melchizedek priesthood being filled by YHWH, right? So we see that clearly, but the concept, the principle of a priesthood still remains. That's why in the subtitle I had law and principle, right? The principle still remains. Okay. Now, just to further drive that point a little further, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 5. You can go to verse 8, and I wanna do verse 8. Not that I want to talk about the feast days, but I want to use the Feast of Unleavened Bread as an example of what we're talking about here. So again, Corinthians, a very New Testament verse, a very New Testament book. So it says, let us then observe the feast, not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of evil and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So what is this telling us? I'll read the verse again, verse 8. That's 1 Corinthians 5, verse 8. So then let us observe the feasts, not with old leaven, nor with the leaven of evil and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So what is this verse telling us? We are still keeping that the feasts haven't gone anywhere. We're still keeping the feasts that Yahweh gave to mankind at the beginning, at creation even. We're still keeping those feasts, but we're not doing the letter. We're not doing the get the bread out of your house, get the leaven out of your house. Now it's a heart thing. Now it's a heart issue. It was always a heart issue. It was always a heart issue with Israel, but a physical example had to be made, which is why back in the time of Moshe, we were given the command to do these physical things like get the leaven out of your house. But it was never really about the physical bread in the first place. It was always about having the unleavened or the leavening taken out of your heart, the evil taken out of our hearts, because it was always a heart issue, right? But we still observe the same feasts, okay? So I just wanted to use that as an example to say the principle of the feasts and festivals that we are to keep hasn't gone anywhere. The way we keep them has changed. Again, a change of law. But the principle of it has not gone anywhere. It still remains. Okay? And so it is for all the feast days, whether you're talking about unleavened bread, tabernacles, Pesach. We still keep all of them. The way we keep them. Pesach is another example. We were to kill a lamb. We were to kill a lamb and spread its blood on the doorpost and the lintels of our homes. Our ancestors were. Now, we recognize YHWH as that Pesach, as that sacrificial lamb, that sacrifice, that whose blood covers and even does away with our sins, right? So again, the way we keep the feasts are different. We still keep the feasts though, right? So that's just an example. Okay. So let's go a little further because I want to talk about what constitutes a sacrifice now. All right. Today, in today's time, I want to talk about what constitutes a sacrifice. Let's go to Romans 12:1. Romans 12:1, I think is a perfect verse, and it says, I call upon you therefore, brothers, through the compassion of Elohim, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, Kodesh, well pleasing to Elohim, your reasonable worship. So we're no longer sacrificing the blood of bulls and goats, but he's asking us to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. So we see patterns of Yahweh through his son YHWH making salvation a whole lot easier. Making salvation a whole lot easier for us. We are called to present our bodies as a living sacrifice and not having to bring bullocks and turtle doves and lamb anymore to an altar, because Hebrews chapter 4 says that we are to come boldly before the throne after the sacrifice of YHWH. Right? So that's one example of our sacrifice. We're presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice. Right? And again, this is because this was how it was always supposed to be, a living sacrifice and not a dead sacrifice. The idea of blood had to be a payment because the wages of sin is death. But from the beginning, it wasn't supposed to be so because there was not supposed to be any sin. Okay, we all know that. So let's go back. Let's go a little bit back. If I can find Hebrews again. Bear with me a minute. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 15. I want to give another example of how the principle of a sacrifice is still here, but the way we sacrifice is different. So Hebrews 13:15 says, through him, then, let us continually offer up a slaughter offering of what? Praise to Yahweh. That is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. So he's telling you here that the sacrifice has not gone anywhere. The principle of a sacrifice has not gone anywhere. But again, the way we sacrifice has changed. The principle is still here, but the way we do it has changed. He's made it a lot easier for us. It's his praise. It's his praise on our lips that he wants us to have. Proverbs says he inhabits our praise, right? So again, this is another example. I'm going to read the verse again. Through him, then, let us continually offer up a slaughter offering or a sacrifice of praise to Yahweh. That is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. Okay, so again, how are we sacrificing? How are we sacrificing? We're sacrificing with the praise on our lips to his name. All praises to the Most High Yahweh. Let's go to Peter, 1 Peter chapter 2. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 5. And I'm going to end with this one. You also, as living stones, are being built up a spiritual house and a Kodesh Kahuna. That means a set apart priesthood, to offer up a spiritual sacrifice acceptable to Yahweh through YHWH HaMashiach. Okay, so again, we ourselves are the stones. We ourselves are the house. We're the spiritual house. Okay, so it's no longer about an altar that you bring an animal to and kill it. It's, again, 1 Peter 2:5 talks about us being a living sacrifice and not a dead sacrifice. Okay, but a living sacrifice. So again, this is to point out that the sacrificial system is still in effect. Well, I'll say this: the principle of a sacrifice has not gone anywhere, but the way we sacrifice now is different. Now we sacrifice with our praise. We sacrifice with how we present our bodies and our minds to the Most High Yahweh. Okay, in the name of YHWH. So we don't have to kill anything. Of course, we die to self daily. Of course, that is a sacrifice as well. We die to self daily because we have to continually get self out of the way. But our bodies have to be presented a living sacrifice. Okay, so hope that was a pretty clear comparison between uh, the old and the new versions, the old and the new ways of keeping the law. Again, we have to look at everything from a Hebraic perspective and not from a Christianized or even anglicized, if I'm saying it right, perspective. Because when you do that, you're, the pieces of the puzzle will not fit. Okay. So with that said, I want to say shalom, and we will reconvene.